Welcome to Power Women of the Trades podcast. This show is all about breaking barriers and changing the game. Our guests will feature some of today's most successful female entrepreneurs and other advocates of our industry as well. Because if there's one thing we know for sure, female-led entrepreneurship drives change on multiple levels. We want to empower women in the trade industry like you so you can maximize your potential, stay balanced, achieve long-term success, and claim ownership over your life. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, it's Leslie and Cassie with Power Women of the Trades podcast, and we are so excited for our guest today. It is Danielle Putnam with the new flat rate. Hey Danielle.
Hi Leslie. Hi Cassie.
Hey, we're so excited to have you. And I love to start off with, for those, we know your name and we know your company and we know, have just seen you in the industry for years and years. So can you tell us a little about yourself?
Oh, thanks. Yes, I'm a contractor's daughter. My grandpa was a contractor, my uncles, my brothers, all contracting. And you know what's funny? Sidestep. My husband, when I met him, he was not really mechanically inclined at all. And my whole world is being around very mechanically inclined men. And so 10 years ago, of course, I fell in love, right? And he, didn't really know how to do that much home improvement stuff. But now, 10 years later, he is so good. And he does his own, he has his own kind of construction kind of business. And so he does all sorts of remodels and things. And he's very mechanically inclined. And so I'm very proud. So now I can say I also have a husband that is essentially in the trades like that. But I'm the president of the new flat rate, and which means I run the day-to-day operations of our team. I really focus on growth. I focus on providing high value to our customers to make sure that, we deliver what we promise and that we're communicating well. I'm a mother. I have 4 wonderful, beautiful young children, and they are my world very much. I enjoy fun things and doing fun things, like skiing, being out on the lake, hiking. But as you ladies know, that's kind of in small increments inserted into our lives, right? Because the day-to-day gets so busy. But I'm really happy to be here. So thanks for having me.
Awesome.
I want to read off her personal interest just because I think this is really fun and we never get to do this.
Yeah.
Okay. So our amazing producer, Rita, always gives us kind of a sheet on everyone that we interview, and Danielle's personal interest, this is what she wrote. Of course, her family, she has beautiful kids. She wrote international travel, snowboarding, wakeboarding, soccer, ballet, country music, fine wines, and stylish shoes. So we were sitting here talking about how we felt like we met our soul sister.
Yeah, bestie. I am like a country
I wish more people did this
Yes.
on our stuff because it's so fun.
It is fun.
Yeah, that is fun.
The country music, I mean, come on, that's me. Every concert, I ran into someone. Travel is
Fine
Leslie.
wines.
Fine. Okay. Yes. See, soul sister, the 3 blonde besties right here. I was at a country concert this weekend and I ran into my brother and his wife, and she said, "We knew you were here." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Because it's a country concert in Tulsa."
They go every weekend. They will literally get in at 2 a.m. in the morning, and Cassie will be like, "I'm so tired. I'm so stressed out." And the next thing I see, they're at a concert. They're at Kane Brown sitting 10 feet from the stage.
It's a whole vibe. You know it, right? It's a whole vibe. It's a whole experience.
One time, a long time ago, I was living in LA and Garth Brooks was not touring, and he did a 1 weekend long tour to raise money for the firefighters because there was a lot of wildfires happening in California at the time. And so he does this weekend long rally of a concert series. And so my ticket time was noon on Saturday, and he was doing it every couple hours all weekend long. And it was so fun to see Garth Brooks live. I mean, it was really neat.
That's cool. I want to go to Stagecoach so bad.
I have to see George Strait on this last tour. Of course he's not in Oklahoma, but I think
Somewhere
he's in Phoenix
in
and
Fort
Denver.
Worth.
Yeah. I've got to see him this summer.
Oh, I could talk country concerts.
But let's talk
day.
about the new flat rate.
Yeah, so the new flat rate, if I'm not, and correct me if I'm wrong, is a family business that was started. Is that correct?
Yes, you could say that. Mm-hmm.
Cool. So what led you to your role at the new flat rate?
Yeah. cool story. I mentioned my dad was a contractor, and it was a struggling life. We grew up feast to famine. Sometimes there was money and there was a lot of it. And then everybody thought that we were rich, right? Which wasn't true. And then a lot of times there was no money. And so, I'll never forget when I turned 16, of course, what do you want? You want a car, right? And my dad's like, well, you can have any car you want out there on the lot. I'm like, Dad, no, for real. I want a car. He's like, yeah, pick one, any of those service vans, whichever one you want. I'm like, seriously? Like, come on, Dad, I'm a girl. And so I had to pick a blue one. I picked this blue service van with the ladders on top, but it was pretty new. It had the 2 bucket seats and it didn't have a bunch of tools in the back. And so I was like, all right. So my girlfriend, I was the only one with the vehicle. So my girlfriends and I would cruise around on Friday nights in this blue service van. But, so I grew up in that lifestyle in the home of, Dad was working long hours all the time. Sometimes there wasn't money at Christmas. But then I moved away from the family. I left Georgia. I went out to Texas to Bible school for 4 years. I went to Portland, Oregon for a year. I went to California for a year and a half. And I'm sorry, 5.5 years. So when I was out in California, my dad and I were best friends. And I'm so thankful for that relationship. And I love the trades. There's a lot of people that have great relationships with their family in the trades. And so we used to talk all the time, and he had these ideas for starting another company. And I kept saying, you need to do something with your ideas. But what happened was from the struggle of running his business, finally he downsized. He sold off the plumbing, sold off the electrical, and moved the HVAC business back into his house with just one of my brothers, who was a technician, and a sister answering the phones. And the 3 of them that year did $1 million. And that was a lot for being a small little 3-person show. So he began to pull all the service tickets to see how in the world did we just do $1 million? How are we profitable? How is it such, let's say, easier, right? Less stressful than normal, than running a big operation. And he began to see that my brother was writing up and handwriting options on every service job and allowing the customer to choose. And that is when the gears started to turn on, wait a minute, do we have something here that we could share with the world? And so that's when he says, Danielle, I got to start this business, but I need your help. He says, if you'll move home from California back to Georgia, I'll give you 50%. You can be president, and I'll pay you $75,000 as a salary. And I said, well, if I'm president, I'm going to name my own salary, but I will come home. And so but I knew, I knew that there was no money to start this new business. I knew that there was no salary that was going to be paid, but I also knew that I would regret it if I never took this opportunity to build something with my dad. And so we started off in the garage, and this was what was really cool. I love startups and startup culture and business and the life of an entrepreneur, right? Well, we started in this, we had this one room in his garage that was just one clean office space that he had set up for us with a round table in the very middle. So it was just 4 walls, one round table, one little window. And so every day him and I would sit there at this table and start building this company. Like we didn't, we had nothing. And I'd take pieces of paper, and I'd tape them to the walls, kind of like flow charts all over it. Every day I'd be like, okay, well, we need a website. Okay, we need price books. We need this and that, right? So I'd start taping to the walls everything that we needed. And that's how we began to build the new flat rate. So it was a year of no pay, blowing through all of our credit cards, all of our savings accounts. And then that next year, we actually had beta tested in 8 states with a bunch of different companies. And we had proven that we were able to make a difference in their company by providing these options. And that's when we knew, hey, we've got something here. Let's keep going.
That's amazing.
I love it. And I think that options are such a huge piece of
it's low-hanging fruit that you can do right away to increase your ticket average.
100%. And I think it separates the contractors who get it versus who don't. And at first, everyone has to start somewhere. We all remember when we started out on our own and we were doing whatever and we thought we knew better. But man, those options, I always tell our team, the options are a lot of times a CYA, you're covering your butt because you gave them all of the solution of what's going to happen, the different options. And maybe they did go with that Band-Aid or that first fix, but whenever that, condenser fan motor goes out, but it was in your options, we've already talked about that. And you don't lose your credibility. And they know that was something what could be coming up. And so I think that you have also a unique perspective too of the female buyer, right? The female homeowner, and how we know that, right? Leslie and I know this. Who makes the decisions?
Well, and I want to go back to the option part of that too. Like not only does it help the contractor and the technician, but it also allows the homeowner to have price perspective, which is such a big deal when there are multiple people in your area, all have great brands or not, but they don't feel like they're painted into a corner. But when you are able to offer options, it kind of can settle everybody down, right? It's like the ball's in their court. They feel like they have more control over what's happening when they have a stranger in their home. I mean, it's a win-win for both sides, Is the new flat rate, it's not just an add-on with option templates. It's actually a fully built-out price book, correct?
Correct. For HVAC service and equipment and electrical and plumbing. And I love how you said it, Leslie. You're right. You're providing these options for the homeowner, and then they can choose from a variance. And it's not just backed into a corner one, right? It puts the power back in their hands. And so we've done it for contractors. All the menus are already built, and then we build in all the pricing for you. And then once you get started, you just press button and present. So it's very, very easy.
I love that they call them menus too, because we're our brain is trained on a menu. We go to Starbucks and there's a menu. It's so funny how trained we are to menus. I thought about this because I knew our chat with Danielle was coming up. I was at Starbucks yesterday, and I wanted
every day.
Yeah, it really is every day. And I wanted the bacon Gouda sandwich, and I know it's on there. It's so good, right? And I know it's on there, and I knew exactly where it was on the menu. And I looked up to order it, and they had changed the pictures, and it's not there anymore. And I panicked, and I was like, you guys aren't caring.
You forgot where you were and everything.
I did. I literally forgot everything. And I was like, you don't have the bacon Gouda anymore? He's like, no, honey. And it's this guy, Jim, who works at Starbucks, which I could go all day about him because he's so great. And he's just like, girl, we got it, but I'm so trained to a menu. Like I needed my option was there. I wanted my option.
Okay. Just so I understand as well. Oh, I think I just lost my train of thought. Okay, it's a built-out price book, and the contractor, if they know what their hourly rate is, they can plug in their hourly rate. It's going to plug in everything else. So it's taking, because building out, and the reason I asked this, I've had 2 conversations in the past 2 weeks of husband and wife team that have reached out to me. One's in Louisiana, one's in South Carolina. She's on the phone, he's in the truck. They want to build their business. And so you're talking, you almost forget where you start. So I had to really think back. You're trying to tell them, well, you need a price book and you need to be digital. So you need to be using a CRM. Well, that I remember building out our price book when we were babies. Like we knew nothing about nothing. And I would have to lock Brent in a room and then to build out our price book. And I'm like, if we complete this today, you can go buy a new gun. I was like, so our price book is ours, right? But that is such a daunting task that I'm always thinking, okay, I had forgotten about this. So I think this will be a really great resource for people who are just starting out, right? Instead of taking that time, because they have a million other things to think about. So they just need to know their hourly rate. It's going to build out all their tasks and plug into, I know you integrate with ServiceTitan. Are there any other CRMs you integrate with?
Yes, with HVAC Pro.
Okay.
And those are both great systems. So, a lot of people that are a little bit smaller do start with HVAC Pro, but you don't even have to be small, right? And then I know you guys use ServiceTitan and love it too, right? So both are great. And there are a lot of companies that are starting out that don't know their billable rate. And in that case, of course, we help them come up with it and figure it out, and we build out their prices for them.
Oh, you can't. So you do have okay, that was going to be my next question, because as I was walking through these conversations with both of these ladies, not really prepared, but like wanting to give them a space to listen and just kind of bounce ideas, I'm like, you've got to be able to scale this. You have to have a price book that when you bring a new tech in, he knows, your husband or the contractor, he knows in his head. Well, he thinks he knows in his head, right? We know they don't know, but they have a better idea. You can't expect to bring someone into that. So I really like this as a resource. I mean, you have to have a price book.
I think that, well, we're doing this a little backwards because normally we talk more about your business at the end, but I think this is really good information anyways, because like she said, so many people start in the industry and they don't really know, and they don't know.
It's so overwhelming, all the things you have to do.
You had to put Brent, when we started, and we had a technician, this baffles me and it makes me like, LOL, like, you big dummy, Cassie. When we started and we hired a technician, we didn't have a freaking price book. Oscar Pound made that up in his head every day.
He was the price book.
He was the price book. So then when we hired a technician and he would like, hey boss, I just sold a condenser fan motor. How much is that?
Yeah.
And Oscar would give him a price every day and he would just write it down. And then we had a second technician and I was like, bro, that's when we started really seeking price books. But like you're saying, you had to pin him down into the room. New Flat Rate's already done that.
Yeah.
Like she said, they spent a year building that and building those.
Well, and how great that you have, I'm sure you have some sort of a built-in calculator that people can probably pull from their P&L and future growth and get their hourly rate. I mean, I didn't know that. I think that is an incredible resource for very small companies, because you cannot put your energy everywhere all at once, but the price, knowing your hourly rate, your price book is so huge, because again, how are you going to offer options if you don't know? How are you going to expect your technician? And, the thing about it really legitimizes you as a company when you go out, you hand over the iPad, there's options, and you hand it to the customer, to Mrs. Jones, and she gets to hold the iPad, look at the options, and decide for herself.
Can you tell, Danielle, that this conversation, me and Leslie have taken over this conversation because the price book is a place of trauma for us.
Yes.
Okay, so now I have to ask you that. Like, how often does this happen? Like, price book is trauma. It is. It
just
makes or breaks you.
Well, right. I think it's so daunting because, we've been doing plumbing for a while now, and we still find tasks we have to add, and it's fluid, right? I mean, you end up using the same 20 tasks all the time, but no home is the same. When you go out, there's 100 different things in plumbing you can build options on. It's very hard to just, and you try to educate your techs, and then you want to educate the customer. But really, you have to have a system where your C- tech can press a button, and all of a sudden he's presenting options like an A+ player, right? You're trying to make as easy on them as possible.
Yeah, and you guys are mentioning and hitting some really great hot buttons, and one of them for sure, when the technician is calling in to get a price, what that is doing is that is stifling your ability, whether it's the service manager or the owner, for freedom, right? You can't be looking forward in your business if you're taking all of these calls, always giving prices and always doing these other things, right? So you've got to take that pressure off of your shoulders so that we can grow towards freedom. But then the trauma, the building the price book, the managing the price book, and updating. If we can talk about updating prices with all the price increases all the time of materials and supplies going up, how do we then go and change the prices in our price book? 75% of companies, and I'm not pulling that out of the air, I swear to you, do not update their prices once a year. Like they don't, right? And so if we can do that for them and it's already done, and then we just push a button to raise or lower and change people's prices, again, that takes away some of that pressure from you, so you don't have to worry about it. So it makes it so easy. But the main thing I want to point out is cash flow. So whether you're a small business, medium or large, cash flow is king. And so in the trades, and we definitely don't want to just be seasonal, but we've got to have our cash coming in so that we can grow from a position of strength, so that we can feel good, so we can make better decisions on the health of the company, right? And so that is where options come in. When you offer choices, 80% of the time customers buy more. And that is where your cash flow comes up. It was interesting. I was doing some research preparing for this talk too, because it used to be that 80% of the people in the home making the decisions over the home were what? Male or female?
Women, female.
Right. They were women. Yeah. And then through all my research and from our data too, I'm seeing that really COVID did turn the tables a lot. And so now it is 50-50. Like surveys are saying that, our audience is saying that it's 50-50. And you guys are in the homes too. And so are you seeing differently than kind of 50-50?
I feel like we mostly, I think for us, it's probably 70% female. I mean, and that's really our avatar.
I
Just
think
because they're usually the ones physically in the home. Well, but you're right. COVID changed it because people are working remotely.
I think the wife is still primarily making the decision, but the husband is always needs to be present to make it. Where maybe before it was just like, oh yeah, we got it. It'll be whatever. Now to the point now that like if we schedule a estimate with you, our scheduling person, our coordinator will ask if both decision makers will be home, because it used to not maybe be so important to make sure that that's how it was. But I do think people are paying attention to money. They don't know. They're paying attention to the news, which is right or wrong, you know?
Yeah, we're seeing that too. And so with that, the women like deals. Women are more of a coupon shopper. They want deals. They want high value. They want lower cost or price points. And so hence the options work so well with women, because then all of a sudden they can see their value. They can go ahead and come in at the bottom price and have something very affordable, something that they're used to or ready to pay. Or they can go up and see, wow, wait a minute, for a little bit more, I get a lot more value if I spend a little bit more money. They have those options.
It puts the decision back on them. They feel like they have more control. And I think, you know, when you're building and scaling, you definitely don't want your technician on the phone calling the boss saying, how much do I charge? Because that's going to create doubt in the mind of the customer. And they're going to think, well, why did we send someone out who doesn't know what to do when he's in my home? So
did you know that this is a true statistic somewhere? I don't know, maybe not. If not, I know it is. I'm just kidding. But at Walmart, you know, when you're self-checking out and it gives you the option to buy the replacement plane on the vacuum you're buying, that it has like an 80% close rate, because it asks you every single time and you were given the option to purchase it. And then you have the 2-year, 4-year, 6-year, or whatever. And then the mid option is the most selected option, because number one, it was the offer rate was 100%, and they go with the middle option every single time. And so that tells us that you have to, you literally sell 100% of, or you don't sell, what is it? You don't sell 100% of what you don't offer.
Right.
And then when you give people options, they are normally going into those midline anyways. And so, but you have to offer it. And you
I
have
think
to
we've gone to 4
options. Yeah.
Is that a Nexstar thing?
I don't know if it's necessarily Nexstar. We
were doing 3 and now we're at 4.
I think we do 4.
I don't remember the psychology around it, but I will say anytime you can make life easier on your technician and set them up for success in the field, because when you go into plumbing and you're going into a house doing an evaluation, if you're doing it correctly, you could probably create 100 options based on what's in that house. So that can be overwhelming for the technician. But if you can pre-build some options, say for, hey, the bad flapper, and hit a button and 4 options appear based on just how to either repair or replace that toilet. I mean, it sets them up for success in the home.
Okay, so I kid you not, I swear this is a true story and it happened last week. But one of my wonderful customers calls up and says, and he's a plumber, so this fits right in. And we just recently had this mastermind event. Our high level coaching group is called Freedom Builders, and so once a year we have this mastermind. We all go together, and this year we all went to Gatlinburg. We stayed in one of those big, huge cabins, you know, with all the luxury suites.
Nice. Smoky Mountains.
Yes. And so there was sleeps 80, right? And there was bears. The bears got into 3 of our cars.
They're so smart.
Gosh. Yes. It's incredible.
We're going to Glacier National Park next week, staying inside the park. And I'm telling Brent, I'm like, they can get into cars now.
Yes. 3 of ours, and they definitely peed in one. I'll just say that. So, but anyway, at this event, you know, one of our key members who I was on the phone with, he's like, you know what, I'm going to go back and I'm going to implement everything that I've learned and everything that I've been saying that I was going to do. I'm going to follow the process. I'm going to follow the scripts, and I'm going to present these options no matter what, the diagnosis. So then he goes out last Monday on this job, and it was a huge home that had 17 bathrooms. And as a plumber, he realizes that one of the bathroom sinks, of course, is faulty and kind of the same state in all the bathrooms. So he goes to who he thought was the homeowner to say, hey, you know, I'm a little concerned. He follows the script. He was nervous to do this, But he's like, no, I promised I was going to follow the process. But let me pause there and say, because in the past, he would have said, okay, I've got these 17 bathrooms I need to make a recommendation on. And so he would have tried to bundle and discount. Oh, since they're doing so many, let me just put these ones together and these ones together and do a discounted rate. But instead, he's like, I'm going to show these menu pages and these options just like I'm supposed to. And I'm not going to cower away. So it goes to the homeowner who says, oh, I'm not actually the decision maker. My mom is. She's not here. You'll have to get on the phone. So then he gets on the phone with the decision maker. And over the phone, again, I'm going to follow the process. Although he was terrified, he says. He created his menus, got a bunch of them all lined up, gets her on the phone and says, I'm concerned. Here's the options that I have for you. And he reads and builds value in the top option. This is my premium. This is my platinum option. But I have these other options. Over the phone, this homeowner bought 43 top platinum options on one job. Right?
Wow.
But he had to offer it.
He had to offer it.
Right.
She wasn't going to pay for it. She wasn't going to purchase something she didn't have the option for. So he offered 43 options and he sold 43 platinum options. But previously, had he not changed his mentality, he would have not sold anything. He would have bundled and discounted. And I think that's a huge testament to why we create options and why we allow the customer to choose because people want to choose.
Yeah. And so what does that do for his cash flow, right? Now all of a sudden he's set and he can make decisions for his business from a position of strength.
That's right. This was really good.
I love it. So, a couple of things we were talking about too was the female homeowners, and to go back to that a little bit. So the female homeowner most of the time is looking for, do you think, what is your perspective of that? Like, do you say that it's more 50-50 and they're looking for a deal, or do you think that's coupons? No. They want to make sure they're getting a good value because psychologically wise, women want to spend less than men do. It's easier for men to spend more money than it is for women. And it could be a security thing, but whatever it is, women want to spend a little bit less. So when they see the different options, they see value. But regardless of male or female, what we are seeing is the two questions that they want to know should you show up on site is how long will you be in my home and how much is it going to cost me? And so there's tension between the service provider and the homeowner, of course, until that has been resolved. How long are you going to be in here and how much is it going to cost? But the main thing that we're seeing today also is these homeowners, they want to make sure that you respect their time. Although we're there to be the hero and fix it for them, right? But to them, they're like, I'm inconvenienced and it's your fault. So respect my time that I had to, get off my Zoom call to help you or to show you where the water heater is or whatever, right? They want to make sure that their time's being respected. And we're seeing that with both male and female. But I think that's the way of the world these days too, because we are all...
well, they're usually already upset and stressed out that they had to call somebody.
Yes, 100%. But then, it's like the life of social media, and everything is instantaneous if we want it. And so my repair should be too. And so hurry up and get it done because I called you and you were smart, and the pictures online showed that you were knowledgeable, and it looked like it was going to be fast. And and it doesn't always. Last night it was 10 o'clock, and I heard my husband on the phone, and he was troubleshooting, and we had an install crew still out, and I was like, my jaw kind of dropped because I was like, why are we still out at 10 o'clock? And it was one of those things that it was a business that it needed to be. But Oscar had told him hey, they might want to go. It was a fire station actually. So they might want to go to sleep, have we talked to them or whatever. But the techs were really, or the install team was really committed to getting it done for them. But we definitely don't want to inconvenience people like that. But it's hard to serve two beasts sometimes because you're trying to serve that, yes, we need to get this fixed so you have your water or your air conditioning again, but also not upset them for being here too late. And I think our techs mindset sometimes is well, which one do you want me to do? And sometimes you're still both.
Well,
still both.
This was so good. I feel like we could probably talk about this again. Something we definitely want to do because I think we're running out of time. It's almost 11.
Okay.
Yeah. When this airs, let's drop a link for people to schedule a demo.
So how could people, if they were wanting to get in touch with the new flat rate or get a demo of the new flat rate, because I do think that we talked heavily about the processes there, and I'm
it'll be good.
Such a fan of no matter which way you do it, how you do it, offering options. I think Uncle Joe says options, not ultimatums, right? Like give options. Like if you're just saying your condenser fan needs replaced, that's an ultimatum. Like you're not telling them they have another plan. There's no alternative. You didn't tell them that maybe it's also 25 years old and the whole thing needs to be replaced. Or maybe you need the capacitor and the contactor and yada, yada, right? All the starting components. You're not giving them the keys to do that. And so creating options in general is just a must for anyone in business in 2023, I think.
Well, and you start seeing it everywhere when you're buying stuff. Like you're like, they just gave me 3 options. And
so with our industry, specifically with home services, right, we want to take that pressure off the techs because like you guys mentioned, it's difficult to take a technician who's really great in the field and a really great craftsman and be like, hey, wait a minute, stop doing what you're doing, stop fixing and start thinking, put on your thinking cap to think of, what are you going to create the perfect option and then pressuring them to sell. So instead we got to make it easy.
Totally.
Because like with the new flat rate, if they had a bad flapper, they could go in and select the bad flapper, right? And then it's still going to have 5 other options created above it, right? That would going all the way up to the premium of replacing the entire toilet or replacing all the guts inside.
Yeah, really close. I mean, yeah,
give or take a few, but that's because the plumber's not going to immediately come up with all of those options, but they're like, yes, I know this needs a bad flapper, has a bad flapper,
hit a button and it's probably going to give you like your next 3 or 4 options, right?
And well, in our system, everybody's got their own, right? Our system, everything has 5 options automatically. And we're going to focus on the primary pain. So if the flapper is the pain, then these 5 options are all about that part of the system.
You know what we should do next time, Danielle? Because I think this is going to help a lot of people. I know it would help a lot of people starting out. I think we should do another episode where maybe you could do a screen share of an example like Company X, bad flapper, so people can visually see it. It doesn't have to be long, but I think that could really be beneficial.
Yeah, like a mini demo, because sometimes people aren't willing to take that step into the demo because they're worried about what they're not going to know.
Well, the visual, especially, I know I could be telling Brent something, but if he can see it on a screen for 5 seconds, it hits a different way. I think I'm just relating back to the 2 conversations that I've had in the past 2 weeks where the wives have called and said, here's what we're doing. Like if I could give them something tangible just to go, this is what it looks like. So show him, this is what it is, that it would really click. Because sometimes explaining it is hard.
No, I love it. And I love that you even thought to ask. That'd be so fun.
That's awesome. Well, cool. So in the meantime, if someone was wanting to get a demo of the new flat rate, how would they do that?
Thank you. thenewflatrate.com. But if you don't want a demo, because that sounds like a big, long, hour-long process, you could get a pricing strategy call. Just say you want a 10-minute pricing strategy call, something simple, just to kind of learn a little bit more and get started. And then if you want to spend the time for a whole demo, even better. That'd be awesome. So you could go to thenewflatrate.com anywhere on our site or shoot me an email, Danielle@thenewflatrate.com. And I'll get my team on it with you, or I'll call you.
Perfect. And we'll make sure to put that in the notes of the show also. But we can't thank you enough for being with us today.
Oh, I loved it.
Not everyone knows, but you had to wait on us a little bit today for my traffic issue. So thank you so much. We're glad to have people like you on that can share resources to help others grow.
Yes, it's a great resource. Thank you so much, Danielle.
Oh, thanks, y'all. Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
All right.
Bye. Have a good one.
Bye.
This has been Power Women of the Trades. Like what you hear so far? Leave us a review on Apple and make sure to listen to our other episodes wherever you enjoy listening to your podcasts. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.